7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Live from the Rob Christensen Radio Network Satellite Studio, it's Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies. Well, hello everybody. Looks like we've got a couple viewers already. Awesome. Now we'll just bring that down and welcome you all to Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies. This time, Jim and I will be overanalyzing Blood Quantum. That's right. So before we get started, as always, smash that like button, subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes, and make sure you hit the notify button. All right. So I think, we got that. In case you're first time here, just want you to know, this is a spoiler-friendly operation. You are entering the spoiler zone. And now that I've gotten that out of the way, I want to introduce my co-host with the most, Mr. Jim Chleboyko. Hey, Jim, how you doing?
In the end. I'm just kidding. I went right for the spoiler. Everyone dies. I'm just kidding. Not everyone dies. That's a fake spoiler, but yeah.
Yeah. Not every. It is a zombie movie, so we shouldn't be. It's not like it's like what someone. Oh my God! Somebody died.
I found that zombie movie not irredemptive. I don't know what the proper term is.
Well, listen, Jim. Give me before I get into a bit of the housekeeping and everything. Give me your hot take. Give me a hot take, man. You're pithy. Your wonderful pithy one line on the show.
Man, what a roller coaster! I was trying to.
Okay, never mind. Cut you off there because you're gonna get into it. Sure. Okay, my hot take would be honestly, and we'll get more into it later. But my hot take would be, look out. And for those of you seen the movie, you'll get that gag.
Yeah.
All righty. Okay, listen, a couple of things. Jim and I want you to stick around to the end of the show if you can, because we'll actually announce that we're getting slicker and slicker all the time. We're going to actually announce the who's on what movie we're going to watch next week. So you have a whole week to procrastinate before you watch the movie. All right. So stick around to the end. And I think I'm going to jump, Jim, if you're cool with this, I'm going to jump to the trailer. Then I'll get into the log line, the short synopsis, and we'll get into it. Make sense? That good? That work for you, brother? All right. Okie dokie. Here, if I can find the full trailer. Oh, there we are.
So how long were you out there for?
Here we are.
Did you get bit?
This planet we're on is so sick of our shit. That's why the dead keep coming back to life.
You're immune. I'm not. What if my baby isn't either?
Run!
It's bad. Ninagasi.
I heard that you could cure bites here.
Ain't nobody immune here but us.
One of them could come in here and infect this entire camp.
Behind you.
You want to live?
Who says we're immune?
Dukja uksid hamo. Awenda sui lexiko.
Not bad. So,
Yeah.
what did you think?
This is I went. The reason why I used a wonderful cliche like roller coaster at the start is that I really wanted to like this movie. I thought, it set in Canada, set on a First Nations reserve, and so but I went really back and forth. I found, the first bit was quite interesting. Again, a little bit of a slow burn at the start there with the sort of the first act was a bit of a prequel. And then they do a time jump, which you don't always see in movies, 6 months later. And that sort of bypasses a lot of the, how we got to this point. And then I started to, I have a real thing about, overbearing antagonists, and I found the Lysol character was a little too much, and I started to sort of find myself getting away from it. But having said that, the last 10 minutes sort of redeemed the movie for me. So that's what I meant when I said roller coasters. Like number one, ugh, and kind of it wouldn't be a good movie to watch in the winter because it'd just be like, oh, what's the point? But there's, it had it. That's the problem with sort of watching it so fresh, as opposed to watching it last night or something, is that it's still sort of percolating in my head. But overall, I liked it. Overall, I would have sort of tried to slim it down a bit, but looked great. And why did I not hear about this before Richard mentioned it?
That's a great idea. Speaking of which, let's say hi to everyone in the stream. Who do we got? We got a few folks on Facebook watching us, and I'm hoping it's our good friend Jelly Duck on YouTube. There we are. There's hello, Richard. And Richard, you should also stick around to the end. You might be mentioned in this episode's credits. Going back to what Jim said. Jim, I'm really surprised, actually, given the when we agree on a lot of things, but we do disagree. I couldn't disagree with you more about this movie. I'm like you. I wanted to like it, and then I'm like, but I was kind of going, well, let's hold back. And I'm like, holy, I love this movie. Start to end. Is it perfect? No, not by and you're well. No, I'm not even saying it's actually a pretty tight movie. Like, I don't think there was a lot of things going on. I liked, I mean, I have so many notes. I loved this movie so much, but at the same time, I was so worried about not getting, not capturing, not taking myself out of the movie because I was so busy writing some stupid note, right? But I mean, I thought it was a great classic zombie movie, right down to the and as I was thinking about other movies, it made me think of very, homage to Dawn of the Dead. It had that, but even a couple of tight little moments in this, it was there's a little bit of The Shining in there with, for once, hey, that's a proper use of drones. I get it. Yeah. It kind of sets an upside down, topsy-turvy world. Tropes will be flipped, but at the same time, it had a real theme, a beginning, middle, and end. I even liked their sort of comic, in a way, it really is a movie in 3 parts. I loved it. You know what, the antagonist, and maybe what I'll do is I'll give everyone just a quick little synopsis here. I'm only going to do the first act, just to kind of give you an idea of the scope of it, everyone, but to kind of set the stage. And actually, I even have, and bear with me, everybody, I'm going to bring this up on screen. As I'm doing it, there's the press kit actually has the first scene. So I'm going to play that as I kind of go over my synopsis here.
Getting slick.
If it if it actually does what I wanted it to do. Yes, it does. Good. So what we got here is darn near the first scene of the movie. This fit AF old man is gutting some fish he just caught, salmon in the St. Lawrence, and I'm sure Jim and I will get into why that's kind of a neat little, I don't know, I can't say Easter egg, a political Easter egg in this film, but it's set at the Red Crow Indian Reservation in 1981, right in Quebec, but one of those ones that sort of, one of those reserves that sort of over, is partly partly in Quebec, partly in the United States, on an island. Very much I'm thinking Ganawaki during the Oka crisis. But anyway, fishing for salmon. Of course, he's just gutted these fish. And what ends up happening is we start to watch the zombie outbreak. Just a sec here. We start to watch the zombie outbreak as, sorry guys, I'm kind of all over the map here. I will get better at this, I swear to God. We start to watch the zombie outbreak. It starts with this. There's comic book moment of the land is kind of sick, images of industrial activity downriver. And then as we see the salmon outbreak or the zombie outbreak go from salmon to a dead dog that comes alive to, a hillbilly in a jail cell, we also meet the key cast. It's the family leader Trailer as a sheriff of this Indian reservation of Red Crow. He's the town sheriff. His old man is his dad, Gissague. His two boys, Joseph and Alan, kind of the antagonist, protagonist maybe of the film. Joseph's pregnant girlfriend, white girlfriend, Charlie, his ex nurse, Joss, that's Trailer's ex, Joss. And as the outbreak spreads, it goes from the hillbilly in the jail across from the reservation. The first act culminates in a gory fight between Trailer and his whole family, less Alan / Lysol, and two zombified ambulance workers. They kill the zombies and figure out, except for Charlie and presumably the rest the Red Crow Indian Reservation, that they're immune to this disease. And that's basically the setup of the film. They're on this reserve, they're immune, and how does that play out, as they let refugees in, how, the tensions both within the family and within the community kind of are shown, eh? So that's a very simplified breakdown of the first act. But here's the big thing is folks, and I want to re-emphasize this as we get into it. You're now officially in the spoiler zone. Everything after this, the risk. So if you haven't seen the movie, unlike, oh, look at this, Richard and Katie watched the flick beforehand this time.
Good work.
So we look forward to you guys chiming in the chat. There's kind of the gist of the film, and like what. So Jim, now that I've gotten out of that, back to my usual. So you're like, it was good but not great. It's not the raver that I felt, obviously.
Yeah, I mean. Now, when you showed that first scene, that's a great scene. They're great effects, and underplayed a little bit. Making everything seems a little sinister. Even it's shot in the daylight. Of course, just a quiet moment. People
totally normal while still establishing mood.
On the coast, thousands of times a day in Canada. Yeah. I've done it myself. I used to. Now that I'm a bird watcher, I'm so glad I didn't pay attention. But my brother and I used to clean my dad made us used to clean the fish when we went on fishing trips, and we would throw the guts to like golden eagles. I'm like, yeah, cool, golden eagles, yeah, right on. I would be flipping out now. Anyway, so I've done that. It's something that a lot of Canadians have done, and just the effect of the fish flipping, despite the fact that they're gutted, even having watched so many zombie movies, zombie TV shows, all that kind of thing, I still felt that I felt what they felt, like that this does not compute. Like, how is this happening? And it was a great effect. So I want to say I did like the movie. I liked a lot of people in it. It's just about 2/3 of the way through the and you know, you get
this is your vast of night.
Yeah,
because I'm still pissed about that.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
About
I'll rant a little more later, but continue.
Just about 2/3 of the way through the movie, I found that the Alan character sort of took over the movie, and I think the movie could have added another half an hour to flesh out some ideas, pun not intended. But other than that, I thought it looked good. I thought the performances were good. I thought the idea was fantastic.
Brilliant, brilliant premise.
It actually could have
the
used
premise that promises an ending, which they deliver.
Yeah.
Sorry,
it could have used a little more. Like, I'm not one for exposition, but the whole idea. Just a quick note about blood quantum, and I sent you that message on the weekend. Is that blood quantum is the measurement that some, I know, American,
the United States. I was looking into this. Yeah,
American.
Continue. Yep.
First Nations bands and First Nations down there, they used to determine how much someone belongs to the band. So it could be 25%. It could be, I even actually listened to an episode of NPR's Code Switch on it at the lake this weekend. And it was about you to get actual citizenship in some First Nations down there. You need to have at least 25%. It all depends on the band, and not every, I hope I'm using the right terminology, but not every nation has the same rules about blood quantum. But that's sort of what the point. If I hadn't known that, I wouldn't have found that out through the movie, but I looked it up. So,
well, you know what though? And I think that is, and I actually think that's a strength of the movie. Here, you can look up blood quantum laws, folks, right on Wikipedia. It's got a pretty good in-depth look at it. And it's, as it says, and I'm not saying that Canada, I'm only clarifying that it was the United States, more just to be accurate. Like this is, Canada had its own, and this is, and now I'm going to get back to why they sorry, man. Let me remove this. This is why I want to get back to that. What I thought was brilliant. So you got let's say the main theme of the movie is, I would say, family. Parents' responsibilities to their children, children's responsibilities to their parents. But the subtext is so any Canadian watching this, and whether they dig deeper into the blood quantum idea or not, it's so like a Canadian, any Canadian doesn't watch this and go, ooh, oh, that, is I don't know, in denial. But that is what I thought really worked with this. It wasn't capital P political. The political was all in the context, like without even having to talk about it. Only a brief couple of times where it's like, you're just, the poor guy who's early in the movie. It's all part of that first act where everything's getting crazier. Gross out alert, folks.
Yeah,
a woman, this reserve resident, but the white girlfriend of a Red Crow member literally eats her own baby after she births the child, and then later on, no one came because my girlfriend's white. And then there's another, and it's a deeper thing. Joseph, let's say one of Trailer, the sheriff of the town, and a guy who's doing kind of the community leader doing his best, but has a past. His son is involved with has a white girlfriend who's actually the pregnant mother of his child, and that comes into play later on. So there's the way it sets up and pays off, but all the politics is in everyone's behavior, and now we will have a history lesson. Even though everything is a history lesson, and that we're gonna get to Richard's comment here in a second. But I even thought, the salmon in 1981, that's like a restigouche, that part of the the actual reserve that the director Jeff, it's Jeff, right?
Yep. Barnaby,
Yeah, Jeff Barnaby. Here, let me throw up some banners now. Jeff Barnaby. He was in 1981. There was actually a face-off between the Quebec government and folks from that actual reserve. This Micmac reserve there, and an actual face-off between the Quebec government. Because these Indigenous folks are trying to exercise their traditional treaty rights, and they, of course, the Quebec sent in the Sûreté, who does not come across well in this, and they get sent in and arrest some people. They all went free, but in the meantime, it was seen as, once again, white Canada, Quebecois or not, white Canada, stripping a community of what limited rights it still felt it had, But even in the director's statement, he talks about that, saying, you draw a line, you get trapped by the line. So there's very much a humanist thing. It's just such a, Anyway, but that said, I'm going to put up, Richard made a comment here. Let's put it up.
When was that? It was about 4 minutes ago.
Yeah. No, I got it up on the screen already.
Yeah.
So Richard's agreeing with you, Jim. Can you see it?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I think I agree, but I think I'm gonna, again, if you think of and let me see if I can't bring up his, let's do this. Bear with me, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, let's, oh, sorry. I did not want to do that. I want to go back to here. That's, I am getting slicker here. So here are the three key, let's say, boys of this thing. You got on the left Joseph, in the center. God, he was great. All the performances are great. In center is Trailer, Mr. Greyeyes, the actor, Mr. Greyeyes, and I'll put up the cast here. Michael Greyeyes. And then the right is, and this character is Alan / Lysol. And going to what you and and this is what I mean. It's all, the politics are all in the subtext. Alan's character, and it's another thing I just loved, Jim, about this movie, was Alan's character. There's that statement early on about how Alan is the son from a previous relationship, the son of Michael Greyeyes' character, and his mom, who a drug addict, or I think that's kind of implied, but she passes away. He goes into the foster system, and it was such a great quote. I had to write it down. It was, he went in Alan, he came out Lysol.
Yeah.
And so all those things that you and I agree with you, but all those things are there, but they're cooked in. They're cooked in even in the conflict, not just within the family, but within the community. It's on the micro in the family, but the macro in the community about why are we letting, because later on in the second act, it's white refugees coming in looking for a safe space. Of course, they think maybe you can cure us. And it's all, no, our blood, you have to have our blood. We're the only ones who can. We're the only ones. And that, all that kind of kicks in, even as, will the kid have the immunity? Can the parent pass on that immunity? Which again, it's all cooked into the context of this film, while the more overt, and I think the capital F theme is family, and what, not just, family within, but family without. And I really just loved the way this all played out.
Yeah. Well, even when Alan goes to, or Lysol, the Lysol character goes to sabotage everything close to the end, I guess 2/3 of the way through, he says, "I have no more family," and he just sort of a big nihilistic attack on everything that remains, I guess, and the refuge that they're all so proud of.
Well, and did you think, Jim? What I found fascinating, and I want to know how you felt, was, did you think that, like, I wrote down about just after the midpoint, I was like, oh, we have like 3 different time bombs. You've got Lysol that's basically saying, I am like, you can tell, like, he's a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
Then you also have the girlfriend, the pregnant girlfriend, and then the catalyst, the match, is that one woman that he had in one of the brief bits of gross out levity. This one woman, this white woman, Lilith, which I thought was one of the brief was, oh, really? That's a little on the nose. But Lilith is brought in. She's actually been bit. We find this out, but it's like, I'm like, where are they going to go with that? Well, they decided to go, well, no, you're bit and you're white. You're going to die. But I was like, I thought, okay, these are the ticking time bombs. How are they going to blow up? Yeah. And like he even said in that scene before the Lilith starts the fire, he's like, what do you think of just being an asshole, or I am an asshole, or something to that effect. And I thought that was like, does that make sense to you? Like, does that?
Yeah. That is just, it's who he is, and it's not an effect, and he's not going for anything. He's not trying to impress anyone or disgust anyone. It's just that's the way he is. He's just a bad.
But I think that's like, you've got to remember that he went in Allen, he came out Lysol.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is you got the father's guilt and the brother, the Joseph brother, wanting him to still be a brother.
Yeah.
And that even sometimes Lysol, because he's become so damaged, he manipulates that. He's forever kind of playing with it. Although it's like every now and then he's telling the truth. I'm not a guy you want to hang out with, and I think even where he goes, where do you think I got the idea from to let, it's like he's forever trying to, like, he's this angry, damaged man that, is like, for a number of reasons cannot get, like, I mean, and when I say get over it, I don't mean like this is very fraught with peril as a white man to say, I can't get over it.
Yeah.
But I don't mean it that way. But like it is, he can't, as a character, he is unable to, overcome that terrible, terrible obstacle. Which even that is kind of part of the message of the movie. Like, again, part of that political subtext. You make damaged people, you're going to get damaged. You cannot...
Yeah.
Everybody burns. Like, even as they're guarding the gate and you see, he's like, he's wearing that crazy mask. Like, I still love the point as was that me or, that's you, eh?
No, this is something in my house. Yeah.
Okay, good. Like,
just shouting. I have the police helicopter overhead. I don't know, circling St. Boniface for some reason. Why don't you just land in my front yard? That's awesome.
Oh, that's fantastic. But yeah, I love this movie. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
well, it's a good, okay. So it's a good find, and I did like it. It just and I'll explain a little bit later how sometimes movies affect me. But part of the thing I was watching it's got, there's not a lot of household names in it, but it's a great cast. The one we haven't even mentioned, the mother, Joss, who's either a doctor or a nurse. I was never able to figure that out, but I think she's a doctor, actually. But anyway,
I thought she was a nurse. That was the kind of vibe I got.
Okay. Yeah. She's a really interesting actress or woman. She's half Canadian and half Indigenous Finn. They're called the Sami people. S-A-M-I.
Or Sami or Suomi.
Well, Suomi's what the name of Finland in Finnish, but it might be a derivation of that.
All right. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. Anyway, continue. So the Sami.
And her parents, according to her Wikipedia thing, they met at an Aboriginal conference in Australia, and she was born soon afterwards. But this doesn't even say this in her Wikipedia page. Incidentally, I was looking. I thought I should look up the Canadian Screen Awards just to see, who won. Just because I watch a lot of Canadian television and that sort of thing, and she actually won Best Director. She co-directed with a woman with the unfortunate name of, I think it's Katharine Hepburn, but not that one. The movie's called What the Body Remembers.
No.
Sorry. The Body Remembers When the World Broke Open. Yeah. And so she won the Canadian Screen Award just recently. Best Director, Best Screenplay. And so she's not, she's no Shrinking Violet, I guess. But she's and Michael Greyeyes has had a good run. He was in True Detective. He had a fairly big part on Fear the Walking Dead, which is the one that takes place in Mexico.
Yeah, I'm listening, but I'm also I'm looking something up.
And there's Gary Farmer, of course, who's in everything, and a few other people. But great cast, great look. I guess it broke out at TIFF most recently, but I don't pay super close attention.
10
to
years
TIFF, really.
after. This I thought was fascinating. 10 years after he was in, I guess he pitched this film. You can tell you watch the credits and it's the Harold Greenberg Fund. Film Board, the NFB was involved, or Telefilm was involved, but even you can kind of say, script development, Writers Guild of Canada, workshop. And I really did. It's not his first rodeo. He's made a couple of films before, but I think this was his second feature. But I'm comparing this to The Vast of the Night last week, where I was like, this is where all that development and that nurturing and support, APTN was involved. This is, I think, actually a great example of why the Canadian system isn't, when they really can bring the resources to bear, they can develop a filmmaker who can deliver great, just a great movie. Again, if you're anywhere else in the world and you're watching this, you can go, wow, this is just a good zombie flick and some Canadian politics. And I think that probably as part of the development process is listen, any Canadian will get this. Everyone else who won't get it and won't care, well, we don't, they can read about it if they want to.
Yeah, exactly.
But whereas The Vast of the Night, which I can still, I'm even more mad at it now than I was the other. Well, I was.
Watch out, young filmmaker.
It didn't. It was. I really did. It's wow, you can tell he's a commercial director who, is he can deliver mood, he can deliver a great image, he can establish a scene, he can direct great cinematography. I know he wasn't the cinematographer, but he really knows how to. But in the end, he's not a. He's the weakness is his storytelling, because he promises an ending that he never delivers on. Actually promises 3 different endings, never delivers on one. Whereas this guy promises an ending, sets it up, and fucking delivers. I was I'm seeing it, but with subtext and great and conscious subtext without beating us over the head with it. Like I said, any Canadian who watches this film will go, well, I know what that's about. You don't need a historiography of the residential school system or Canadians' horrible record with Indigenous children, Indigenous child safety and child and family services to go, he went in Lysol, or he went in Allen, came out Lysol. And it's that's such a great, he really does. He knows how to hit it just right. So we're not being beaten over the head with it, but it makes it even stronger. That'll be one of the quotes. Well, that, and I don't know, Jim, what was
I got a few.
Yeah. What was your favorite? Yeah. Okay. Throw down. Man. Like, there was great lines in this.
There was one that the Lysol character said, when these bingo bunnies go south of cheese. That's just a fraction of the sentence. But the one of the best lines, and very Canadian, I think, when they did a bit of a raid on a local rival's place, I guess, and they were going to clear it out at the gas station, and then also take some of the gas. The one of the attackers, I think was it Boomer, had a chainsaw, and they attacked on a couple levels, and half.
We're talking about the same line. Yes, go throw down.
And half the body came and was hanging upside down. Michael Greyeyes going and take a shot at it, and he goes, "Little fucking warning."
Yeah,
I thought that was so Canadian.
Well,
like he didn't deliver it super angry. Like,
no,
give me a little warning, but it was just like little fucking warning here.
Yeah,
excuse the language, but
and it was. I also thought it was very the delivery, that dry tone. I've always identified with Indigenous humor. Indigenous comedy. That kind of very much. You're right. It was a little warning, and then the guy responds back, which was, he's leaning over the thing. Look out! Just like that was genius. A nice bit of, especially in such a, but not like the guy can deliver bathos, but not like it's just to give you a little break, not okay. I have been known to use humor to get out of uncomfortable situations. I'm thinking Marvel movies where sometimes they really hit the joke button right at a moment where it's like, wow, you're having a real human moment. And then it's like, bing. Better make a funny. Here it's like just to kind of dial down the tension like a good horror filmmaker would. Bring that tension down a little, and then you have a moment. And I thought they delivered that. Even his story about how he first met Lilith. Lysol meets Lilith, engages in oral sex, and it was just a really disgusting, as Joseph said, as he told him the story, and some of it we see the aftermath later, and it's like, where he's actually illegitimately thrown in jail by white police, making an assumption. It was like, ding, ding, like, again, a nice, but in a humorous anecdote, humorous gross out anecdote, again, like subtle, while at the same time being funny, and foreshadowing a really horrific and gross and kind of darkly, ironically funny moment later. Brilliant.
I sort of wondered how I'm not a huge gore guy. I was wondering how you would do with it, the other thing too is that this was unapologetically, like, both gory and unapologetically angry. Like even Chief Michael Greyeyes, he was just swearing and angry all the time. He wasn't the sort of the wise, sort of middle-aged guy who had all the answers, but his presumed daughter-in-law Charlie, he was even like, "You do this," and he shouts at her. There's no sort of like family, there's no worries about possibly offending someone. It's just like everybody's swearing and kind of angry all the time, and it's unapologetic like that. So it wasn't made by sort of over sensitive people, I guess.
Katie, we're going to get to this question in a sec, but I want to go back to what you were saying there. I agree completely. I thought it was super just real, and very Canadian without being CBC. In that it's like, you could have just had a great little family kitchen drama, res-based kitchen drama about that family, and how real he was touching it, like that the sore, the dad, it's like, well, he's trying to get away with the fact that I was a fuck up and that he gets away with everything. And she's, the ex is like, were we just shitty parents? Like that. And again, that they're having those honest conversations that that even the kids are like the boyfriend girlfriend in the first act. Yeah, they meet at the hospital because she was gonna get an abortion because they're teenagers, they're teen parents. Of course, the zombification kind of goes through, but even up to the very last minute, it's like, are they gonna do it? Or are they, like there's a bit of, I don't want to do it, but maybe we should do it. Like it very so real, and I that's used too much, but I think it's appropriate here. And yeah, Jim, you're right. Unapologetic about any of it. Unapologetic about frank talk, and Canadian. At the beginning, the guy is trailer who's he just had to kill his ex-wife's dog in a great moment of, hey, have you met my wife? Have you met my ex? Because he had to kill it because it was going a little squirrely. Even the bumper, I don't know, it's just acting crazy. Maybe it was all the rat poison I have in the garbage. Which is just what a great delivery. But yeah, he's like, he comes in, then all of a sudden, you know what? Doris at the station's been trying to get a hold of him, and it's about Alan, it was about Alan. Oh, Joseph's with them, those boys. And I thought it was so Canadian, something you do not see in American film. It's Jesus Christ. You don't see that very often. And the way he delivered, I'm like, and it's 1981, and I'm like, oh my God, that's my dad. He just remind, and there was like all those moments again without being obvious, but Canadian, in the way they talked about stuff, in the way they were so frank and unapologetically angry. At the same time, they could still there was still humor. It wasn't this unremitting slog that I know you like it, but the Donna or Walking Dead and that, where it's like, and not a signal of somebody's dying when they're being funny. I mean, okay, for about half the time. Then there's the other half the time where it's like, you're going to die later, but that zombie just bit your dick off. It's like, sorry. Well, look, you are in the spoiler zone, folks, so suck it up, buttercups.
Yeah. And the worst part, it wasn't fatal. Like, it's just because, he had to live with it. Well,
he had to become the Wendigo. Or the Wendigo. Like, I'm probably mispronouncing that, but it was like, all right, listen, let's bring up Katie's question here. And how did I handle the gore? There is actually my worst experience with the gore, Katie, honestly, and it was in the scene that we just saw. It was the gutting of the fish. It was like, I'm holding up my hand to the camera. I'm like, I don't want to see that. And then later when they're eating, but the only thing that I got kind of used to it, well, sort of, but I was more kind of then trying to observe it more clinically. It's like, George Romero would have been impressed with that. But yeah, in general, I was not I can't say I wasn't a fan though, because I was like, no, that's, I don't know. What do you think, Jim? To me, that's a zombie movie. That's an old school, legit, his Barnaby's unique take on the genre. But at the same time, it's like, no, that's a zombie movie. That's what happens. They eat the flesh, I mean, like even his punishment at the end, which again, everything's set up, paid off. Just because you're immune doesn't mean you can't be eaten.
Yeah, well, and he says to the
good.
Yeah, he says to the one character who's the most meaty, like who can take the most punishment, because they're not going to turn you, as they say in other shows, but they're
you could get bit.
You could get bit in the neck. And they sort of go for the method seems to go for the guts, almost like that. That kind of I don't want to. It's a surgery they do in the Philippines. It's that gross out kind of fake surgery, and they have broken parts and stuff like that.
Psychic surgery.
Yes, yeah, it sort of looks like that a little bit. But in terms of the gore, I think and I don't want to seem like I'm virtue signaling or anything like that, but a couple of the early
Signal away, Jim.
yeah, okay,
Signal away.
couple of the most gory deaths happen to be women and sort of men on women. So the one woman that falls out of the ambulance, who was I think the woman that Joss asks about the tetanus medicine. She sort of falls on top of Michael Greyeyes, and then she gets somebody comes up behind and chainsaws her head in half.
Way through.
Michael Greyeyes bludgeoning the woman who was attacking her own baby
after she ate her baby. Yep.
After she ate her baby with the guy. So it's this sort of like, I know you have to do it, and I know there's only I know either you're attacking men or women or whatever, but a couple of those really kind of showpiece gory scenes happen to me women zombies, and I don't know, I just thought, there's a lot of guys who got cut in half and heads chopped off and things like that, but I think you guys, I was a little bit, it's sort of, I'll tell you what it reminded me of the end of Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, with that really I'm still here.
Sorry. Yeah. Continue. That was my fault. My bad.
With that, really gory, when Brad Pitt attacks the one woman that's attacking him, and it just sort of goes on forever and ever, and it's a little bit of a. I'm glad I didn't bring my wife to that one.
I think you can. Maybe I'll. First, you make a great point, and I'm going to go back to the first part of the point. I think the imagery. You're absolutely right with what happened in Tarantino's the end of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The only thing there, though, I think it was because he's replaying a historic event. He was kind of limited in his choices of who he's going to beat up terribly. So I think there it was just kind of, just the way Manson rolled. It was these women who went and in tax did these terrible things. That said, going back to, but they're Tarantino's kind of boxed in a little. Let's not, if we ever do that movie, we'll unpack that again. But yeah, I don't think I thought of it the way you're looking at it, Jim, but I'd have to agree, because even going back to what you said, like not just those two, but Lilith, the one point where I'm like, oh, that's a little on the nose, really, Lilith. Even the one time there's almost like a bit of, let's say, and when I say weakness, let's put air quotes on. I got to think of let's say second guessing, kind of fence sitting. It's Joss, actually, which I still think was a great character choice, and she did it really well, where she kind of agreed with Lysol about why are we letting all these white folks in? And I don't mean it necessarily in a racism thing, but hey, we got to protect our own. Back to that, one of the more core themes about where does our responsibility lie? Where does it start? Where does it end? And certainly a theme I think the director wanted to explore, what is family? What isn't? How do we draw these lines? But it really was like, so at the end, the only virtuous mother, I guess, would be Charlie. In a way, was never good, or she was just good throughout the entire film. Is Charlie, although she's the one who let in the bad girl, the Lilith. They're all like kind of Eve characters, or they all have these moments of doubt that have horrific consequences, because that's why Charlie ends up dying. Is if only Joss had bumped off Lysol, who was by then he really was. I picked up that imagery where, in the comic book bookends of each act they were using. He's a demon now, full stop. And a human demon. At no time are they taking away his humanity, but it's like at the same time, it's like, no, you bump him off because he's gonna He's got a, like it's one of those things.
He's a rabid, or I don't want to say rabid dog.
Well, but I think that's kind of what they're setting us up to feel by the end of it, and so, yeah, I agree with you. If we could criticize his thing on it very much. Oh, look at this. Jamie Long's joined us saying hello to Katie. Apparently we don't rate a hello. Handsome men that we are.
Maybe we should have an upright bass in the corner or something.
Oh, maybe Jamie could be that. No, actually, Jamie's like a talented musician. Maybe we could. Cool. As restrictions lessen, we could have our own band. Okay, Jamie, what do you think? All right. So yeah, I agree with you, Jim. Yeah, his let's say of all his things, his gender his that subtext that he may not have even been aware of as he was developing the project. That's let's say part of this. I'm sorry, I've been reading a thing on semiotics. This is the unintended layer of subtext. But yeah, you're 100% right. Like, I mean, I still love this movie, but you got there's an asterisk there, and what's otherwise like a really tight flick.
And it's just those, and you can tell like this
Jamie,
is
we still love to hear it.
This is for the sort of the Fangoria crowd, or this is for the real, like, this is to, these are showpiece deaths in this. I don't make movies myself, but I'm just assuming the way they're lit, the way they're framed, the length of time
they're big hits, big gross hits,
right?
Yeah.
As opposed to walking to a room with 100 different, or 10 different people, and you're taking them all down.
Yeah,
they're sort of things. I don't necessarily think you'd have them in the trailer, but it'd be that sort of, appealing to the Shudder network crowd, that you would have something like this. So.
Yeah, no, and Jim, yeah, I do agree with you. Yeah, that is a great point, and something I like. Again, it was only until the Lilith, really,
yeah,
that I was like, kind of, and yeah, maybe that's. Although who knows? Like, I mean, no, you know what? I don't have to make excuses for him. He's a big boy who made a great film that has a couple problematic areas, and it's like.
But I mean, my overall.
Apparently, Katie's happy to see Jamie. Your overall, sorry, Jim.
No, I was just going to say that. How did I not know about this movie? And that's a genuine question. Like,
right?
There's a couple of people that I've been following their careers. I should mention that I've really briefly, in the Twitter world, I once complimented Michael Greyeyes on a scene in Fear the Walking Dead, and he actually got back to me, and I was like, what? So that was pretty cool. But so he's responsive, folks.
And yet you obviously didn't follow him because you didn't know that he had such a killer turn in this movie.
Just throw it on the pile of stuff I'm trying to follow. But he was.
I'm teasing with you, Jim.
And the thing about the unapologetically angry bit is that you didn't have to make him fatherly. You didn't have to make him a Jimmy Stewart character. Like, he was just like an angry dad, but he was still sort of the pillar of the community.
But
he was
still a good guy.
What's that?
Still a good guy.
Still a good guy, yeah. Still tried to do the right things, and
he's angry because he's got a, like, I would imagine. Well, Jim, I'm sure there's plenty of times you've gotten home. Your kids are wonderful, and there must have been times you got home and heard something. Jesus Christ, or somebody just say, "Get your head out of your ass. It's cold outside. Put a goddamn hat on." Right? Yeah. Like I that's again back to that first moment where he's like, like it's a father who's got kids who are getting into trouble. Mm-hmm. And the humanity of that, it was just so awesome. And then even the two exes who are now kind of obviously comfortable with each other enough, or probably just have to be, they're in a very, very small community, that were just shitty parents. Like, what did you...
We should probably say her name. We keep on saying Michael Greyeyes. She's Elle-Máijá Tailfeathers, and I hope I'm pronouncing Máijá is M-I-I-J-A, which is I guess a Finnish spelling, and
Let me find the. Sorry, they didn't put the
as opposed to calling her Joss or the the mom or
Yeah. Well, I don't mind. And I think it's okay. Elle-Máijá, probably.
yeah.
Yeah. Elle-Máijá, Tailfeathers.
Yeah.
Ms. Feathers was fantastic. They were all good.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
even she barely had time. I want to say not Olivia Scriven, the Charlie, that
Was it
girlfriend.
the
but,
tough First Nations girl.
Pardon?
There's a tough First Nations girl named
Yes.
Devery
And
Jacob.
she was, another, another angry kid.
Yeah.
Who falls into, let's say, you can kind of see that split in the community and falling more into Lysol's orbit. Because Lysol has a point, like not like in a way, I bought him better. Like he's kind of a Killmonger character, kind of going, it just not as overt and political.
Well,
but he's saying the same thing,
Good comparison. Yeah.
Um,
The Devery Jacobs, I can't remember her character's name offhand, but she was actually a character in the third season of the CTV detective show Cardinal, which is actually a pretty decent watch for it's a good Canadian set in Canada.
Who is this?
It's called Cardinal. It's with Billy Campbell and Corinne Vanasse, and they both won Canadian Screen Awards this past year for best leads in their, best female lead, best male lead in the series. And there are 4 seasons of 6 episodes each, and she was in the third one. She was a victim in the third one, essentially,
Okay.
and she was also in Barnaby's earlier movie, Rhymes for Young Ghouls, I believe it's called. And show he's developing an entourage, perhaps, or not an entourage.
Well, I'd imagine just some of it's just, he's an Indigenous filmmaker making Indigenous films.
What's the word? Ensemble, not entourage. Ensemble.
Yeah.
That's an important distinction. But
what about the Stone Horse dude? He's
Where has
actually
he
like
been
an
all my
MMA
movie
guy.
watching life?
Like an MMA fighter trainer.
So he played the grandfather with the samurai sword.
Holy
the crap.
Fit AF. That's what I was like. What was that fit AF old man? And then it's like, wow.
I would watch that guy cut up the phone book with a samurai sword. No, I would. Stone Horse Lone Goman. I had written it down, and
an actual MMA guy. Like,
wow,
what the? That's crazy.
He was great,
and delivers a good role.
Oh yeah.
But the bumper, here was something I wanted to ask you about, Jim. Actually, even as I think of that guy, who is kind of he was the drunk kind of troublemaker. Like every community has that drunk old jerk who just has no sense of responsibility. He's the one who's like, oh, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's the rat poison in the garbage. I put it there. It's like, because his whole, and even as he's complaining now, I have to clean this up, and it's like, you're never cleaning anything up.
Yeah,
a great way to blame someone else for it, buddy.
Yeah.
All these communities have that cranky old man, the relic, and either he's relic with
no, just nice. That's a nice deep cut relic.
but he's like a relic character, and it's like if it was a comedy, he'd be involved in boosting old pipe from a plant,
the pie off the windowsill. Yeah,
exactly.
Relic, he's at it again.
And they can go either way. They can either be a good, like a cranky old coot, but a good character, or cranky old coot that's just a nasty, evil old man. Kind of cheering on Lysol. But again, they do it so well. Sorry. But as I was thinking about it, it was like, and just even the way the main character, let me put him up again. Let's put Mr. Greyeyes back up. So you got him there, and you see his hand on, I don't know if you can you see the pointer there? I'm pointing at his hand on, the thing on the hip, and it's that Western, there's like a Western vibe going on here. You know what I mean? Like I was really kind of blown away with that. But did you was there anything like you had a bit of country music, which I really just think that's, just part of the whole reserve, the whole res setting, the whole, that country music kind of vibe, the cowboy hat, that's just, rural. You'd see that in rural Manitoba. But that he's the sheriff of this town. He's even got a sheriff's badge, like there's a Western kind of motif going on there.
I think one of the coolest things about 20 minutes in, when they realized that stuff was going down, he looks at his father, who's the Stonehouse actor that we're talking about, the grandpa with the shaved head or I guess he's bald, but and he just looks at him and he says, all right, I deputize you. And he does one of these and he throws him the car keys. And I thought that was sort of like a nice, effortless kind of cool.
Yeah, go get. Very matter of fact and just kind of.
Your deputy.
Yeah, but no, lay it on thick or, some, and then they look or, no.
No
this
Michael
is
Bay.
that subtle, exactly. No Michael Bay, no Zack Snyder, no moment, no, and then the gimbal shot around the guy's head, like it's like, oh, things are changing now. Just he's like, I need you, and of course, Buddy delivers. But even when he's doing it, you're not thinking, why are you that crotchety old man? Like the United States, American filmmakers love to use these old men that are really like, I don't believe you're that spry. I'm thinking Red. I buy, what's his name?
Malkovich.
Malkovich, I don't buy as spry. He does look like the old man he is.
Yeah.
No, the other guy, Jim.
Willis.
Somebody help me out. Yes, Bruce Willis. Yeah, there's a spry older dude.
Yeah.
But this guy was like, he's spry. But again, back to that more subtle touch, you don't have to, you just automatically buy, he's looking there. It's like, what the hell? Okay, gutted fam. That thing's gutted.
Yeah.
Back to the gore briefly. Oh no, that's not the one. Gore. You know what they also do? They show a bit of gore and then they show some gore and then they back off of it. They cut away far enough, or they never cut away, but they give you enough to go, oh, this is gross. And then they cut away from it. It's not in your face so much that you are inured of it.
Well, there's the little girl that's been bitten and they have to take care of her, and the camera cuts away. They don't need to show that. So there is some restraint. There's a lot of blood coming from under doors or washroom stalls.
Back to how did you put it? I saw there's a couple. It's like, oh, how Tarantino-esque. The Kill Bill spurting, but again, if it fits the genre very well without overdoing it so much that you're like, the Fangoria crowd. I think this is Fangoria is part of it, and this is part of the genre, but we're doing more than just making a gross out fest that people can do a body count on.
That's an element of it, definitely, and that's for that crowd, that certainly there's enough of, and I have to say too, I've never, it gives equal, there's blood and there's gore, and I'm just trying to think of the bodily humors that aren't included, but the one I have to say, it's the sort of the grossest use of fecal matter I've ever seen on TV or in movies, when at the start, when he gets arrested for defecating on a car windshield, and she has
but again, that kind of
the windshield wipers going, and they're just not stopping, and there's sound, and that was almost as bad as some of the violence, but
I really enjoyed that, Jim. I like, even that was like just what a great gag, and again, they're just, that's what that is what a creatively thinking kid, it's like, got drunk like even when he's trying to, explain it to his girlfriend. Sorry, I'm also trying to fix my
no worries.
fix my focus here. Got to make sure I'm in focus, my beauty. But I liked that gag, Jim, in part because I was like, it's that sort of visceral, like a country boy idiot would do, you know?
Yeah.
And and it also, again, it's another tease and also another political moment, because it's when they go to that Surete guy or the sheriff on the white side of the bridge, and it's the old lady from our side, and there's that bit she could almost, like, I mean, maybe the only, there's almost like maybe a stereotype, like if she just clutched her pearls, it would have just made it mwah.
And in amongst the things that we sort of look for when we're watching movies is, can't ever say that I've seen that before. So that sort of checks that box.
Right. Yeah, no, and I kind of get you in that. Wow, why? It's a box you didn't know you had.
Yeah, exactly.
What did you think of, like, and again, all these little moments of like kind of reestablishing the time frame that this is the early 80s. Heck, the buddy with the meat on him who was willing to, kind of be the decoy near the end, and he's like, so he gets in the car and he's like, well, I gotta have my tunes, and he throws in, although I'm kind of wondering how he did that on an 8-track, but without but he throws in country music on an 8-track and I'm like, that's so 80s and country and I think res, like, I mean, it just fit.
There's a place besides, I don't know if they still do, but a place on Portage beside CBC that up until very recently used to sell 8-tracks. They still had an ongoing business. So not new. They were used, but and I think the most redeeming feature of the 8-track is the click over into the next reel. So it would be, and she's buying the stick.
And a ka-chunk.
And it ka-chunks to the other side.
But it was like, it's the auto reverse of of its time.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
One of the other lines I liked was, moose and deer are clean. They're talking about eating.
Oh, yeah. What
you're talking about food earlier, like fish bad, dogs bad, mountain water's good, moose and deer are clean. And I like these sort of distinctions, is that every, I think I've mentioned before, World War Z, zombies existed underwater and they could move underwater, which I have issues with. But anyway, so they avoided water almost entirely. Which
is part of putting boundaries.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they've each got to have their own thing. Like, once again, they don't refer to the word zombies. They call them Zeds. And, or
well, and these guys, Zedsicles. It's like, I thought of you, Jim. I mean, we've had this conversation before, but I know you. It's one of your favorite parts of saying, "Oh, great, another word that isn't zombies."
Yeah, it's just it's walkers, and even within the Walking Dead franchise, between series, they have different words for them. So it's interesting to see, because it's a sort of a writerly choice, right? And nobody ever says zombies. No one refers to zombie movies. No one says, "Oh, we have to take the heads off." Obviously, they just sort of get there eventually. They sort of understand the science of it, or whatever. But
it's interesting you bring up that point, like where they're creating the boundaries. Then it's that moment, like she has the Lilith. Like you can kind of see where it's going. Like, like as usual, that midpoint, it's either an up or it's a down. I was kind of having a hard time figuring out what it was in the storytelling, but it was like kind of they've reached what I would call they got to where they wanted to be, like a unstable equilibrium. Like by the mid, it's like, okay, they've established this wall. They're taking people in, but there's already tension building. You've got these time bombs. you know, the mother, Charlie, the Lysol, Alan. You got these time bombs, but there's this kind of equilibrium, and even it seems that the Taylor, that character, he's figured it out, and they're like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna go there. We know that this, and this, but they know that they can't be there permanently. They have to. They got to figure something out. They got to make a move. And I thought it kind of was a harsh cut as the young woman is figuring out that there's that the guy she came in with, Lilith, comes in with this father-daughter kind of group. The daughter has to be killed because she's turning into a zombie, and the father ends up killing himself in the bathroom. And there's this moment, and then all of a sudden they cut to making these plans. And meanwhile, and I may have to go and listen to it again, but that was the one thing I thought, if we got just a bit more time. Now, this is where I'd say, a couple more minutes of what is their plan. They have a plan, but they go through it so quickly. I don't even know what's going on. I kind of barely, it's like, oh, right, the boats. There was something about the boats getting them somewhere. Oh, and he even burned them down, which was kind of cool. You know, like he was just, everyone's going to die. But I'd like to know more about what their plan was, how they were going to get out of this unstable, untenable situation. And because at the end, although at least, a few people do survive this, everything does fall apart, but a few people survive. There's some hope. A child is born. A child that may
to
not...
Joseph.
To Joseph. Although I don't think Charlie in any way were they implying, although there's some biblical stuff, Lilith, right? But that they have this moment at the end, but it's like, well, what was the plan? If there's a bit more of an idea of a plan, I'd have a bit more kind of, okay, but they got somewhere to go after, which I would have liked, just because I liked all these characters. I liked every one of them. And I kind of see what you're saying about Alan or Lysol, and how he's like kind of unremittently a dick. But I'm like, I thought they kind of established him well enough. There was moments of like a glimmer of hope for him. And then, of course, which I think was really dashed right at the beginning when Dad gets them both out of jail and basically says, well, the son goes to the hospital to get his bite taken care of, part of establishing the immunity of the family, but also they have that moment where they're both sitting in their cars, and it's like the dad still kind of up with his sons is basically, you know what, you and I are basically we're a couple of f-ups, but Joseph could be better. And it's like, okay, there's your of course the son's angry, of course Alan's angry. That's probably where he really does slide into Lysol. Oh, this is a good point. And Richard, I would even go where I both ask you and Jim. Do you see Richard's comment?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, I agree with you. I also thought it was like I thought it was kind of a nice moment. The church. Oh no, I lie. What I actually wrote in my notes was I thought that was also a little on the nose, but I was also like, yeah, the church was such a place of like it. Yeah, I mean, a lot of like. Christianity on reserves is not an unheard of thing. It's actually a pretty strong thing, especially in older Indigenous folks. But at the same time, it's like, what a horrific history. As they were like the government's agent. Okay, in Canada, it was happening in the States as well. But for those of you might be watching that aren't Canadian, the church was such an active agent in the residential school system, and in general, trying to wipe out Indigenous people as a culture. And so I agree. And I don't know. What did you think, Jim? Like, I mean, because there's a biblical thing going on there, like with Lilith and everything as well. So
I thought that was kind of a neat. Well, first of all, I was thinking, what because it looked like an active church. It didn't look like one of those decommissioned churches.
No,
but
it wasn't.
looked almost like a countryside cathedral kind of that you'd see in Eastern Canada occasionally.
Yeah. Or in rural Manitoba, you sometimes find those like a Ukrainian Orthodox.
Yeah, oh yeah,
things.
yeah.
Just all of a sudden out of the nowhere. Yeah,
I
but it was a
drove
big
through-
church.
Oh, yeah. No, it was sort of not quite cathedral, but you wouldn't call it a little chapel or either. But it was a handsome building.
A prosperous community's big ass church. Yeah,
like who would Dear, to whom it may concern, we would like to film a zombie movie in your in your church. I thought
some Indigenous folks dragging in some white people and setting them on fire like a sacrifice.
Yes, and
you good with that?
Their head cut off, and there's but I thought Gary Farmer's sort of little weird soliloquy when he's talking almost like a preacher at the head of the church.
Yeah.
So for those of us who haven't seen the movie or anybody watching, is that the antagonist Lysol / Alan actually
and his crew
lures our heroes to the church to the people here are in danger, you need to rescue them. So it's sort of close to the end, and it's a setting of a little bit of a showdown, but
and they've dragged some of the white people that they've otherwise been sheltering up to this point there as well.
So excuse me. And so that's where that takes place. And that was anyway, the whole Gary Farmer thing where his character is sort of delivering this drunken kind of little, almost like a sermon. And
like a rant, sermonic rant. Like he's from high. He's even talking about it's a sacrifice. It's a purge. Okay, in the Jewish biblical definition of a Holocaust, we'll burn everything. Which is what this kid is doing. He's the Lysol character, burning everything, burning it all. Whether figuratively or literally, burning the boats like, oh, good Lord. Thinking William the Conqueror said, burn the boats behind you. We're taking this place, or what realistically would happen if they didn't win, they would have just built boats to go back home. But,
or, like the whole sort of, 1943 push into Russia. We will need no winter coats. But it's September. It'll be easy. You'll see.
We'll be fine. We'll be fine. Yeah. What a couple other things that I kind of thought, again, back to the almost on the nose, but great in that high pressure point. And what was a brilliant kind of play on what would have otherwise been just a standard knock on, Western tourists. That, again, the father upset, screaming at the tailor and his buddy, who's, I cannot remember the character's name for the life of me, but the guy with the kind of the weird axe. They're talking about the daughter, and he's screaming at them, speak English.
Yes.
And they're, it's such a great, and even there, I want to say somebody stepped up to just kind of, okay, buddy, they got to do something you don't want to watch. Oh yeah, it was the young woman, part of her crew, but there was a little bit of again, all these people were potentially redeemable. If he wanted to, Barnaby could have written them slightly differently, a little later on, have some moment. And they could have, I would have bought that too, because they really, I was buying it. But I really thought that was a great bit of speak English, and he's demanding this, and it's like, oh, buddy, you don't know. They're protecting you as they're having this. And I don't mean protecting like, oh, you ungrateful English-speaking white guy. No, it's we're having a shitty conversation about your daughter, and we're gonna, out of human care, going to speak English. And I thought, even now, I get a little choked up. There's some real humanity in this film. And again, I mean, George Romero, in a way, let's say, if not the father of the modern zombie film, a stepfather, definitely one of the greats in that genre. But I never got misty over any of the characters.
Yeah.
Not a one. None of them were established that well. They were already human wrecks by the time they got together. They were like really kind of back to the, oh, and this is interesting, Jim. We've talked about it before, that found family. There's no found family here. It's actual families.
Actual family.
And yeah, that I think that had a real impact on me as I was watching this, even though there was other characters involved. Like, I mean, at its core, it's about this father trying to do right by his family and making mistakes and everything. Like, do you buy that or?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I did.
Does anyone watching, like Katie, Richard, do you guys watching? Do you buy any of this, or you just think we're kind of full of crap? Or
I'm glad you brought up the speak English scene. That happens, I think, fairly early on in the second act, right? Just after the 6 months later.
Yeah, it's that kind of very early in the second act.
And so he says to him, and it's out of hysteria. He wants to know what's going on.
Yeah.
But there's also there's also he's also being a bit of what we now would call a Karen by saying, you speak English in front of me. Like, it was a little bit of white privilege.
Demanding. Yeah, absolutely.
All Michael Greyeyes does is look at him. Like, he doesn't say, we saved you. This is kind of our land,
No posturing, no masculine posturing.
No,
not once. Yeah, real. Like, even in the way that, in the horrific and darkly ironically funny way Lysol loses his manhood, which in a way I think Barnaby sort of drawn him that way already. Whereas, some of the masculinity in this film is not good.
No.
But some of it is really just quiet and subtle and no American. I keep knocking American. I don't know. Canadian film has its own issues, but no posturing.
Yeah.
None of these. Even Lysol is not posturing.
Yeah.
He feels like a real troubled dick.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah. No Poochies, no David Caruso, no the sunglasses come off. None of that kind of stuff.
No,
it's earned, I guess. Yeah.
No, yeah, exactly. No justification. I'm gonna throw up Richard's comments so we know it's but there's no kind of finally we get to do it like men did. The grandpa, like the only kind of sort of editorializing comes from that bumper. Was a dick, whereas the actual badass grandpa, at no time is he like, this is the way we used to deal with things, and now we get to do it the way it used to be. Like there's none of that kind of shout out to an older, they're not. They're not like making a hagiography of this masculine past.
Yeah. I should mention that sometimes the way that movies kind of affect me, and the reasons why I was doing that roller coaster thing with it, and especially when the Lysol character took off, it sort of reminded me of the first time I ever watched It's a Wonderful Life, and I'd never watched it before. I was staying in Vancouver with my dad and my
We'll
stepmom,
come back to you,
Heather.
Richard. I just wanted to make sure.
But towards the end of the movie, just before it sort of, everything hits rock bottom, and I remember my dad and my stepmom had gone to bed, and I was wrapping their presents. It was Christmas Eve, and it was probably 2 a.m. I was watching this, and I was getting just viscerally angry. Like, I thought, this movie's supposed to be uplifting, and
where's the uplifting?
George, he's I have no money. It's just hitting rock bottom.
Yeah,
it's all going south. Nothing good is happening, and
it just gets worse and worse and worse.
I was just like, this is the worst movie I've ever seen. And then they finally sort of, bring it out of the nosedive. Spoiler alert, they bring it out of the nosedive and it all ends there's a wonderful life, and so it's so that's sort of the effect that it had on me. This one is that when everything sort of starts to hit the fan, not that I check out, but it's like, oh God, like give me something, give me some hope. Like, are you going to kill off every cool character? Are you going to, how is this going to end? And not that everything has to end in hope, but you sort of, you want some redemption, I guess, or some.
Well, and I think they finally gave us a bit of that at the end. It's certainly more down. Like, I mean, it's still on an up note, but not as up as. I would have liked to, because I did like them all. Like even Lysol, I was like, okay, he's a bastard, but he's a created one. Like But going back to.
He's the character on the movie poster, by the way, is the Lysol character.
Yeah, no, you're right. Like he's the Wendigo.
Yeah,
like he's going crazy, like in a war zone. Like they're all suffering PTSD by that point, 6 months in. But where are we here? Richard, agree with the family thesis, and for an action flick, nice to see a little humanity. Yes, Richard, I couldn't agree more. And I think the depth of the conversation we've all been having kind of emphasizes that these are characters we could get into. We could judge, we could. They're real, and just such an. I'm sorry, I really enjoy this movie. Like I see where you're coming from, but like at the beginning there, Jim. But I would say though, and I think this is something where, especially, I don't know, and maybe Richard and Katie could maybe chime in here. But I was thinking about this. I think one of the things that our kind of discussion helps us do is, it really does. I was thinking about Fringe. You got a Fringe, and how I look at every play I see is pretty much risk-free. If it's awful, it's done pretty quickly, and you can talk about it. As some of my best memories of a Fringe play were the crappy ones, and a couple were just out-and-out disasters where it was like, but people I saw those disasters with, I still talk about. It's like, hey, do you remember? And then that kid just wouldn't shut up and in the audience, and the mother couldn't control it, and it's just like, wow, he was louder than some of the actors on stage. Like, it was just these great moments. So, and I think, but going further, getting a little more intellectual about it, like, you see a movie on Netflix, you see it alone, or maybe you see it with your partner, and you've got that kind of short end. Well, what did you think? It was pretty good. Maybe you talk about it for a few minutes and you move on with your life. Well, you're going to forget the movie. You're not even going to, you're percolating may never happen after that. Like, I mean, you're a writer, Jim, you are going to think about it more, but without the conversation, it's so much harder for most of us, to kind of go, okay, how do I really feel about that film? Like, I don't think I would have given the Vast of the Night much thought after I watched it. I've been, and then maybe if somebody brought it up later, wouldn't have an opinion either here nor there. This one, I would have an opinion, but I would not have the depth of, I had no enjoyment. It's like we get to enjoy good or bad or middle. We get to enjoy it in a way that we otherwise wouldn't. And I think that's one of the great things. I think that's one of the things our show can actually offer people, especially if they've seen the film, like Richard and Katie did. What are you buying any of that though? And Richard and Katie, definitely. This is to you. Are you guys buying that? As this conversation after made the film more the better for you, the film experience better for you? I'd love to hear about that.
Well, even just you just mentioned the scene where the white father is asking them to saying, speak English, and I had forgotten. I mean, I just watched it this evening, and I'd sort of filed that away a little bit. So when you're bringing up things like that, you're like, oh yeah, that was an interesting bit there, and it's just all these movies, you do a little bit of research into what it's about and some of the themes that it's about, and some of the title here, Blood Quantum, that brings up a whole truckload of stuff, and just the the sort of the stuff, the things that you didn't know about the people that are involved, and you do a little research, and bam! I always get accused of looking up things while I'm watching movies with my family. It's like, what are you doing? Don't look that up. We're going out of the movie, and I'm like, but I gotta see where it was filmed, and I gotta, who is this guy, and that kind of thing. And it's just sort of a habit of mine. But this sort of gives me this helps
organize their thoughts, though. But it's also like, I mind you, I've got a I have my little note questionnaire for myself, but I'm also, it's like I think for myself, the way I'm watching it, I'm actually in a way trying to be in the movie while I just briefly take a note. And I've done some research before now, and I can dive in deeper later. And I know we're going to have this conversation, which just kind of makes me think about that. But I do think I'm getting more out of the movie. Here's one more. And also, I can't, before we kind of get to the next part of, I just still can't get over that we both like kind of highlighted that little warning.
Yeah.
Look out. It was just the moment, a little word, and like it's such a gross out thing, like gross, so gory, gross. But and then to just take a little of the sting out with that look out. It's like, and everyone delivering it without. Oh yeah, what a great movie. Like, I'm so glad our 10th show, by the way, Jim.
Oh 10th. Yes, yeah.
Woo-hoo. 10.
10 anniversary.
That's pretty impressive. A lot of these things don't last past 2.
Yeah,
we've done 10.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here, let me. I don't know. Any last thoughts? I think we're exceeding our. We're getting at our usual hour and a half. So
make it as long as the movie. I just wanted to read this out. Michael Greyeyes is a graduate of the National Ballet School in 1984. He went on to apprentice with the National Ballet of Canada before joining the company as a corps de ballet member in 87. After 3 years, he moved to New York City to join the company of choreographer Elliot Feld. Greyeyes performed in many of Mr. Feld's seminal works, including Intermezzo, Scara Bre, and The Jig Is Up. He performed, and he goes on. But
wow.
Where's this guy's autobiography? Like that's I'm sure he has like a Saskatchewan ballet dancer living in New York City, a First Nations ballet dancer. I'm not sure that there's many of those, and I just think that's pretty interesting. So
well, you know what, Jim? I think, and this is we're gonna come back to this. I don't think we're quite done. We're close. As I screw around with my focus one more time. But well, first of all, we're okay. It's good to, you know what? Richard makes this point, like you kind of touched on it, and Richard's there. It's like you're digging up scenes you missed. You watched the movie, but you're like kind of, oh, that's right. That does add to the meaning of the film, and it's not taking you out or anything, but it does add to the meaning of the film. So let me ask you, okay, first of all, I want to say, back to, as we're praising Mr. Greyeyes and all of this fantastic cast, I'm going to say, hey, you know what? Like, subscribe, ring that bell, and feel free to share the link on this show to your social media channels, because if Jim and I can break move the subscription and the watch time up, we can grow our ability to bring in interviewees like we did with Timmy, which is a great show, Funny Guy Timmy. I would love to bring any member of this cast or Mr. Barnaby himself, or even a couple of the producers. Like this is obviously a labor of love, but a supported one, you know, like he is in many respects. He's a creature of the Canadian film industry, and the support for Canadian film. And yeah, I would love to, it'd be so cool to bring some of these folks onto the show, but that won't happen, everybody. Here's my guilt trip to you all. That will not happen unless you, I'm doing it again because I just can't help myself. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, share. I just need a share emoticon. That's what I need, Jim. So, okay, one more opportunity before we announce our next show, because we've actually gotten our crap together enough to pick something for next week, or well, I picked it, but you know, we'll get into that later. Any other last hot takes? What
great good solid Canadian horror movie, great cast, good look, and the thing about the cast too is I find that I'm watching, and maybe you are too, a lot more things where 90% of the cast aren't white dudes, and I don't miss it at all. Like it's the talent out there is pretty amazing, and it
super deep.
It doesn't have to, you know, it's things aren't being done, I don't think, like they used to be, and we can go about that another time, but there's things that are filmed from different perspectives other than the cop or the white guy or the, you know, and I'm all up for that. So that's what I have to say.
No, that's great. For myself, I'm looking at my notes. I don't think although I got to admit it did. And you know, it just a question for a later date. I even was thinking of, but other films that I was thinking of, and I just want to kind of throw this out there. Of course, there was the shining moments and his ability to use music, like his soundtrack kind of really came in subtly. But I also thought, oh my goodness, this is like Dance Me Outside, you know. Where's Ryan Black? But the other movie I thought of that I thought this was like kind of a subtle shout out. I don't know if it was, but I thought that was then, this is now, one of the S.E. Hinton classics.
Oh, okay.
You know, those two brothers, but they're not really brothers, whereas these two are not. They're half brothers.
Yeah.
But I thought that was another kind of beat they were going after, a kind of a vibe of, hey, is one of these going to turn out all right? And then the other one is, well, they were brothers, but now they aren't, kind of thing.
And how about that? The stepmom shooting the half son or whatever.
Well, there's like, again, like it was like, oh, if you had, I got it. This is how I got so wrapped up. I got into these characters. I'm like, if you'd shot him 30 seconds before, she would live. Like, I mean, it's like, oh, she's getting bit.
And this whole, anyway.
She's getting bit. I was like just so wrapped up. It's like, oh, I want all the good people to live. But again, gutsy, you're right, Jim. Like, it was still ended up doing not a badass like a Norwegian mother, you know, squeezing a guy to death with her legs, but
pretty strong. The ladies are.
No, they weren't written weekly. Like, you're right. No. Like, I mean, there's a gender issue there, but they were not written weekly. Okay, got one more comment. Oh, Jelly Duck.
There he is.
We have missed you, brother. Good to see you, man. You're gonna have to catch the. Have to catch the show. You know what? I'll throw a link of one of your live streams when the show's like, you know, firmed up. But you missed a good show, man. But it's good to see you even at the end. All right. I think now we've got an opportunity. Let's talk about our next show. Next week we actually kind of got our crap together and we know what we're going to watch, and I'm going to throw up in an overview right now. Jim and I will watch and then examine the same time next Monday. Occupation.
Nice.
Right, crikey.
It all takes place on a shark farm. There's no such thing as a shark farm. It's just fun to say with an Australian accent.
It does. That is entertaining.
Yes.
Well, and it is a what the heck? Do I have the actual log line up here? No, but I did send it to Jim in an email. Do you get that email handy?
Yes.
Because that was actually it was a great log line. Like actually, it was like, wow, that's a great log line.
When aliens take over their small Australian town, a modest group of survivors must unite to fend off their otherworldly intruders.
There you go, folks. It's on Netflix. So it's on Netflix, at least in Canada. Jelly Duck, I'm not sure if it's in Kuwait. Oh, look at this. Dodd Snow. Okay, we got to dig deeper into that one.
I think I know which one he means, but I'm not. I don't want to guess.
Yeah, well, we'll find out. Then we'll circle back on this next week, Jelly Duck, Ahmed. But yes, you're very welcome. I decided to switch it up a little. But yeah, so next week, that's what we're watching. You got a whole week to check it out, kind of get your own thoughts sort of around it. And you know what? The more people we have joining the conversation, I will send out like a little 1 minute, like literally a 1 minute. This is what we're watching. So feel free to share that on your page and distribute as you could see fit. More people we get watching, the bigger and the better the conversation is next week. But otherwise, yeah, Jim, you'd agree. Good movie, eh? Dead Snow is a Norwegian zombie movie. How could we not?
No?
I think it's got to go on the list.
Yeah. I think
along with Ravenous, which what's his name was Jamie was talking about, which is another Canadian zombie movie set in Quebec. It's just the hillbilly part of the operation, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know what? I don't know. Well, maybe we won't. Well, Jim and I'll discuss it. But there's a part of me thinking, how could we not? It's Norway and zombies.
Hold me back. I think it might be one with. I think this one might actually. I think my sons watched it with like Nazis or something like that, and
of course,
set in the wintertime. If it's the one that I'm thinking of.
Yeah. Well, we'll. You know what, Jelly Duck, thanks for contributing that, and maybe you'll. Okay, so on that note, Jim, of course, stick around. We can do our own little post show debrief. But everyone who's here, thank you so much again. Share, like, subscribe, and please watch our outro because I worked hard on it, and you know what? Good night, everyone. You too, my friend. Come on.